Welcome to Hello World, where we help you rediscover the good that's all around us. Today, Hello World is on location. We're at the lovely home of Val Lewis, and Val is a accomplished jazz artist, and his accomplishment is so long that I need a list to help me. But Val is a accomplished singer. He is a producer. He's song arranger. He's a organist, as well as he composes music. And you can hear some of his music in shows like Mad About You, The Sopranos, and our favorite show, Friends. Val has also performed with legends like Dionne Warwick and Earth, Wind, and Fire. And these are artists that I've heard of in my youth. And some of them that I have not heard of, but like the Delphonics, the Futures, the Stylistics. Val has also produced many singles and also an album called Colors of Soul. In addition, he is also the founder of the non-for-profit F2F, a foundation that helps music students to thrive. So welcome to Hello World, Val. We're so glad that you're here to share your story with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So Val, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how did your music journey started?
I'm originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and my music journey started pretty much when I was 10 years old, and it was very interesting the way it started. I was at home, and one day my mother asked me, well, actually, she told me, she said, "You're going to learn how to play an instrument."
Okay.
And I thought that was strange coming out of the clear blue all of a sudden. I said, "So why is that?" She said, "Because I said so. You're going to learn how to play an instrument." Okay, if you say so. So she said, "You go to school, see if they have any instruments, and you pick out one that you want to learn how to play." So, okay, so I came back with a drum pad and sticks. She said, "No, not that one. So you go find something else. Don't want all that noise in the house."
Oh, she didn't like that particular
Right.
instrument. Uh-huh.
So I said, "Okay, fine." So I came back with a flute. She said, "Okay, that's better." Well, flute and I didn't get along too well. I tried my best, learned the keys and how to blow, but blowing it was making me dizzy, and I didn't like that feeling. So one day I went back to school with the flute, and it just so happens the music teacher asked me to come up to the front of the class and play something, and I wasn't ready for that. So she noticed and said, "Okay, give me the flute, let's figure out something else." And there was another classmate who played organ, and he would play during the class occasionally. And I thought it was the greatest thing that this classmate would sit down at the organ and he's just moving up and down and hands going, feet are going all over, and he's smiling and just having a great time. I said, "That looks like fun." So I said, "I'll do that." So I started taking lessons, private lessons, with my first teacher. Her name was Mrs. Virginia Goss, and I studied under her on Saturdays. Would go down to school in downtown, took lessons from her for about a year and a half, actually more closer to 2 years. And she said I needed to have an organ to practice with at home. So we decided to rent an organ. It was the first organ was a Wurlitzer spinet organ, which was a smaller one, with I think it was 12 pedals, 13 pedals on it, and practice with that. But then I noticed that it would break down occasionally and have problems. "Mom, this organ is not working right." She said, "Okay, well, let's go down to the music store, a different store, and see what we can find." So we went to a store downtown Philadelphia. It was called Jacob's Brothers Music. And we walked in, met with the salesman. The salesman asked me to play something on one of the organs there in the store. He seemed to like the way that I was playing. And he said, "I want you guys to come upstairs. Let's go upstairs to the second floor. There's some organs up there I want to show you." And there was one in particular that was in the corner. And he said, "If he likes this one, I would encourage you to buy this one. It's an antique, very specially made because it was built in 1939, and it was exhibited in the New York World's Fair." And I said, "Oh, sounds good. Okay." And I sat down and played it. I said, "Yeah, I like this one." So we ended up bringing it home. And
How special.
yeah, so I kept that organ for probably by the time I was 17, so about 7 years. But I was also singing at the same time with city choirs, all Philadelphia boys choir. During my rehearsals there with the choir under Dr. Carlton J. Lake, I really started liking it, and then ended up being one of these selected students to be in the small ensemble of the choir, which was about 60 of us. And we were asked to come perform at the Montreal Expo 1967.
Wow.
So we went there, and I turned out to be a soloist singing first soprano.
You didn't know that beforehand, or it?
Well, yeah, Dr. Lake told me, well, you're going to do a song, and this is called Kyrie Eleison, and you'll sing the lead, and then the rest of the choir will join you. I said, okay. I'm going to sing lead. I had to think about that for a minute. But I practiced to a point where I could do it. But getting up in front of an audience of about 2,000 or 3,000 people, I had never done before.
And you were how old at that time?
Probably 11.
That's scary stage.
It was scary, for sure. But I managed to stay on pitch, even though my voice was wavering a little bit from being nervous. But I got through it. And everyone stood up for a round of applause at the end. So I said, okay, I did it, yay. And it was a fun experience, though, to be in a different country, first time, and be with friends in the choir. And we spent a few days there, so we had lunch and breakfast and dinner together. And
did that just kind of sealed in the love for music and the performance?
Exactly, the perform live in front of people. I enjoyed that so much.
So you didn't say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad it's over with, move on," but you were like, "Give me more."
Yeah, I want to do this again.
You want to do this again? So you remember the names of the people that kind of help you along the way, or show you the way in the very beginning. So are they your influencers, if you will?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's neat.
Yeah, and I even say this now. I teach private piano lessons to students, that they will probably remember my name as they become adults, just as I did, because music is very special in a way where it has power to enhance the mind and concentration, focus level.
Yes.
So that things that happen to you, you normally don't forget. And especially with a music teacher, you become very special to the student that you're teaching.
Yes, yes. They impact your life and teach you a skill that you can use for the rest of your life. Right? Your mama is a force. She has really
She was a tap dancer and an acrobat when she was young.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And she was very young because she had to stop. I think she said when she was 13.
Yeah.
Because her mother passed away. And Dad contacted her and said, you've got to come home and help take care of the family. So no more performing. But she always had that desire to perform.
Yes.
And I think that was the reason why she just
wanted you all to.
All of a sudden just told me one day, you are going to learn an instrument. But now that I think about it, it could have been the way that she raised me, being her firstborn. At the age of 3, she started teaching me how to read the newspaper. By the time I was 5 or 6 years old, I could identify various makes and models of cars.
Oh, wow.
So I think she saw from an intelligence standpoint that I was bright and my aptitude was very high. She enrolled me into a school called Masterman Laboratory and Demonstration School, downtown Philadelphia. This school required an entrance exam, and you had to have an IQ of a certain level or higher.
Oh, wow.
To get in.
So Val, when you're developing your music or composing your music, who is your inspiration or your influence, musical influence?
I don't have a particular person
Mm-hmm.
that is a musical influence when I'm writing or composing.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually from a mode of music or a mood. For
I see.
example, I may listen to some music on a radio station
Mm-hmm.
for a few hours,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll hear something that has a rhythm that is what I'd like to write from.
Mm-hmm.
So I may take that particular rhythm, remember what it is, and then sit down at the piano or the organ and then just start chord movements with that type of rhythm
I see.
and then build the song from there.
That kind of was a question I had next. Was I've always wondered, is it the lyrics that comes first? Is it the music that comes first? How does it like end up together so perfectly?
Well, and I think that depends on the writer or composer.
Uh-huh.
Personally, I hardly ever listen to lyrics. It's all pretty much music for me. And if I feel later that the song needs lyrics,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll sit down and try to come up with some lyrics that would fit it. But I don't know if that's a problem that I have to deal with sometimes. But occasionally when I'm listening to music, I block out the lyrics.
So you go from a music is that you go from the music and then you add the words as needed.
Hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, and that's something too that is a point that I learned
Mm-hmm.
growing up as I came through working with professional artists and
Mm-hmm.
singers,
Mm-hmm.
particularly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that it's important to know diction and
Mm-hmm.
how to pronounce
Mm-hmm.
words when you're singing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, even now, I hear with the newer music in this generation that they just kind of fumble through words, and it's supposed to be cool, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can't understand the lyrics, then you lose the message within the lyrics.
Sure.
And years ago, back in the 70s, message songs were very important so that people could understand what the message is and
Mm-hmm.
apply it to daily life.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So when you're doing music for like the show Friends, do they provide you like a prompt
oh
or
no.
no? So they make pick from your catalog? How does it work?
Well, in these particular cases of Friends, Mad About You, I think Wife Swap,
Mm-hmm.
Fresh Prince of Bel Air, those types of
Oh,
shows,
mm-hmm.
that music was composed prior to the particular episode. I was a songwriter along with quite a few other friends of mine to a company called LA Post Music, Los Angeles Post Music, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a music production
Mm-hmm.
company.
Mm-hmm.
So we maintained what we call the music library
Mm-hmm.
of various types of genres of music. And we would just record segments. It could be for urban, soft, contemporary jazz. We may do 10 different types of variations of that same genre on a CD. Then the next CD might be soft urban, and the next
I
CD
see.
would be Americana or what have you.
Mm.
And then producers that had these shows would ask for a specific type of music. There's a person that usually works for shows called the music supervisor, and they source out music based on what the producer's wanting to have on a particular scene in a show. And they may go through 5, 10 different companies to find that one special piece of music that fits what they're looking for. And because the company that my partner had, his name was Tom Borton, LA Post Music, we were doing work with Showtime, with HBO, with
Mm.
NBC, CBS, all the major networks and cable stations. So we had that notoriety of being the one that they wanted to go to. It was like first choice. So then they would
Mm.
go through some songs and say, okay, yeah, this particular one we want to use for this episode.
Interesting. This
Yeah,
is like behind the scenes. So they kind of like location scouts. They have music scouts that goes and discover the music that
right.
they want for the episode. And it's almost like if your songs get or your music gets picked, it's like being picked out of an ocean full of music, and it's pretty special to
You're
be
right.
selected.
Hmm.
Wow, that's neat. That's interesting. Now, earlier in the introduction, you wear so many different hats musically, right? As a composer, songwriter, performer,
Hmm.
you know, organist, and all the other instruments you might do. Which hat do you like the best, and why?
I like performing the best. Secondly, I prefer composing, recording, arranging. Um, I haven't been doing too much live performances lately, primarily because the Music Foundation is taking a lot of my time to launch the different programs and make sure that it's operational, and as well doing the sourcing for funding because of us being a nonprofit organization. But I am recording quite a bit, so I prefer to be able to be at home, do the work that I'm doing, and then just keep putting records out, because as a recording artist, that's what it's all about.
Right.
So.
Right. Interesting. I know you have collaborated with some famous or legendary artists and famous artists. Is there a particular memorable moment or memorable experience with when you collaborated?
Well, yes. Within the friends and associates of LA Post Music at the time, most of us that I worked with were part of the band that performed with Tom Borton. He was a saxophonist, and there was Kevin Chocan, who's a guitarist, and we've done a lot of recording together. Also, Jerome Lee, who's a bassist. We helped with arrangements for a lot of Tom's albums at the time, and he did 3 different albums. Since then, I've been doing most of my own compositions. For example, the Colors of Soul EP you mentioned, that was all pretty much my original compositions. But lately, I formed a record company with a good friend of mine now. His name is Michael Garvin. And Michael is a prolific songwriter. He has, to his credit, I believe 33 top 10 hits.
Oh, wow.
And 20 of those were number ones. So I think his biggest hit was a song called Waiting for Tonight, which Jennifer Lopez recorded. And he's also done a song called Never Give Up on a Good Thing by George Benson. So we've been doing collaboration over the last couple of years to produce music for our label and to get it out there in distribution. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. That's been nice.
And I think later on we'll talk about the foundation, but you have, I think you mentioned earlier that Dionne Warwick is the ambassador for. How did that happen?
Well, I toured with Dionne Warwick for about 3 years.
I see.
Yeah, thanks to my brother, because he's been with her for 15 years, maybe, as a drummer. And it was at one point he asked me to come, I think it was in New Jersey. They were performing somewhere in New Jersey at a casino. And we have family on the East Coast, because we're originally from the East Coast. So I said, yeah, well, that'll be fine. And I could come visit family and so forth, and then hang out with you at the show. So I was there during sound check at one time. And Dionne's son, his name is David Elliott, was at the piano, and he was working out a song. Again, it's all impromptu. My brother's putting his drums together and tuning them, and David's on the piano. So my brother noticed I was standing there just kind of watching him, and he said, hey, David, maybe my brother might be able to help you with that, if you want. He's right there. He said, oh, he turned around and said, oh, yeah, well, you think you can do something? I said, well, yeah, I was kind of listening and watching what you're doing. What if you were to do this? And I sat down and played the same chords he was playing. And then I said, if you were to take it to a change like this, that's the change I was looking for. That's it. That's perfect. Hey, Mom, come check this out. It's Mom. And I see her walking across the stage. I said,
Were you starstruck?
Oh, I was like, oh my God. I loved Dionne Warwick ever since I grew up.
Yeah. How long ago was this? How old were you at that time?
Let's see, 13, maybe. I started touring with her in 2002. So this would have been.
It's not that, it's not that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me, maybe late 2001.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Were you starstruck? You're like, wow, the legends here.
Yeah, well, I wasn't expecting her to be there
Uh-huh.
because it was sound check, but I should have thought that she's eventually going to come.
Yes.
But for him to say, "Mom, check this out," and like, okay, so what's going to happen? And she said, "Well, let me hear it." So he got up and I said, "Oh, I got to play." Oh, you know what a cold sweat is.
Yes,
I
yes,
just started getting
yes.
nervous, and he said, "Well, let me play it. What I just did. We'll see what happens." And she, I guess, listened, but continued to do what she was coming there to do, which was to check the microphones and so forth. And she also checks acoustics on places where we play. She has a knack for doing that. So I didn't know whether she really liked it or not. She really didn't give any kind of indication one way or the other.
Yes.
So I said, okay, fine. That was a moment. And then a couple weeks later, at the time, I was working as director of credit for a computer company out in Fremont, California, in the Silicon Valley Bay Area. And I had a doctor's appointment that particular day, so I had left work early. I was coming home. I heard the phone ringing as I was opening the door of the apartment. Went over to the phone. Said, "Hello." She said, "Hi, Val?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Hi, this is Dionne Warwick." How did she get my number? Oh my God.
Oh, my.
So I guess my brother gave her the number, and she said, "Yeah, I really like what I heard the other day at the rehearsal, and I was wondering if you'd like to go on a world tour with me."
Wow.
I paused just like I'm pausing now and had to think real fast. Okay, I am in charge of 26 people nationwide at various branches of this company. I report to the chairman and president. How do I? Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, it took 2 seconds,
I
right?
said, I'll worry about that later. Okay, yes, I'll do it.
Chance of a lifetime.
Exactly. That's why I made that decision. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Any musician or people who don't really love accounting will be like, "That's a no-brainer." But I understand you have responsibilities, but
Exactly. Yeah.
those are a lot harder to come by, those opportunities.
Right. Right.
Wow. Which, kind of leads me back to the question. Yes, we talked about all your accomplishments as a musician, but that's not all you did.
Oh no. Yeah.
We before the show we kind of chatted a little bit. We had a little bit of a common profession or area. So, what other jobs have you had besides being a musician?
Oh my goodness. Uh, After touring with the Delphonics, that was in the early 70s, I came home and my mother said, "Well, you can't sit around the house. You're going to have to be doing something." It's okay. So
Mother,
yeah.
mother
So
knows best.
right. So she said, "I've already made some phone calls, and I want you to go downtown and go visit Dr. Watkins is his name. He's at the school district of Philadelphia. You catch the bus, you know how to get downtown and go there, and go talk to him, and he's going to put you in a position." I said, "But Mom, I've never taught any kids before. You can do this. Don't worry about that." I said, "Okay, fine." So I went downtown, talked to him, and started in a Title I reading aid position, and ended up working for the school district for 5 years in different levels of work. So teacher aide, reading aide, non-teaching assistant, at various levels, kindergarten up through 12th grade. And after 5 years, I said, okay, I need a break from students for a while. And I'd also started I was a co-founder of a nonprofit organization in Philadelphia, which had a music workshop as part of the youth organization. And we worked with people in the community who wanted to put a band together. Some were relatives, cousins, and so forth, and helped them put their rhythm section together.
Sure.
And we did some shows at the facilities that we had access to, and just brought the community in. It was great for 5 years while I was working for the school district.
Yeah, and you're also in finance and accounting type. So many different additional hats that you wore.
You're right.
Yes. Okay. Val, we would love to hear some of your music. Would you play some for us?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Okay. Lead away. So Val, I heard you describe your music as groove jazz.
Yes.
Can you show us groove jazz?
Yeah, this is one that started it all. It's called Groovette.
Groove it.
There you go.
It's hard not to bop with it, you know?
It keeps a little bounce going for sure.
Yeah. What else you got?
Oh, let's see. The next album after that one was on the Colors of Soul EP, and it was the first single from that album called Maybe So. It kind of goes a little bit like this. There you go.
One more.
Okay, I'm going to take it out of groove jazz now
Okay.
and do another form of music, which a lot of people like, and it's called blues.
Okay.
So I decided one day to write my own blues song, and it goes a little like this, and it's called I Want to Be Cool. Just the other day, I met a pretty girl and said hi. She looked at me and said, you better keep on walking by. This happens every day, I wonder what I'm doing wrong. I need some loving and I just can't wait too long. Out on the weekends, just trying to find some party life. But the only thing is I'm staying up all through the night. It shouldn't be this way, I feel like I'm a loser now. 'Cause all I need is someone just to show me how. Love and hug ya, to wanna squeeze ya, do everything I can to try to please ya. I just won't be no fool, girl, I wanna be cool.
You're cool. Yay. Thank you so much for sharing your music.
My pleasure.
That's wonderful.
Thank you, thank you.
That was wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Glad you enjoyed that.
So much more to ask. So Val, music is played a big part of your life, and you're clearly passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
How has music personally impacting you?
Physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, all of the above. First of all, I was, I guess, gifted with the ability of having what's called near to perfect pitch.
Mm.
So I think one of the things we talked about earlier was which way do I usually go when I compose, whether it be with lyrics or with
Right.
music. I've always kind of focused on music because when I listen to music, as I mentioned, I usually block out lyrics and I'm listening to the structure of music, and I've always been that way.
Mm-hmm.
Primarily because I can tell when I first listen to a song what key it's in.
Mm.
And as I listen more and from the key, then I'm listening to the chord structure. Okay, that's a major, no, it's a minor. Okay, then it's going from there to D minor, then from there to a F major 7, and then from there, and oh no, it's a ninth. Okay, F major 9. Oh no, it's 11. So my mind is
Yes.
constantly calculating what I'm hearing,
Wow.
and it became nerve-wracking to some people, especially when I'm on stage performing with a band. I would look over sometimes, and this has happened a few times, over at the guitarist and say, your G string's out of tune. And we're playing in midstream in the song, and he's like, what? It's G string.
Yeah.
What?
You have a sharp hearing for sound.
Yeah, because within chords that a guitarist may be playing, I can tell if it's flat or sharp. It's just not
Yeah.
correct.
So aside from the technical aspect of the music, you mentioned that it impacts you emotionally, spiritually. How so?
Well, for example, when I go to sleep, music will continue to evolve in my brain. So I could be sleeping and I'm decoding a song because it's something that I want to either learn, or I'm going to use part of those types of chord structures in a song that I want to compose. When I was younger, sometimes I would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30, and go to the organ, turn it on. And everybody else was asleep, and my mother would hear this, the organ coming on. She's like, "Oh, he's at it again." And I would sit there and just start playing something that was just in my head because it was going on all night long. But from an emotional standpoint, I think it also kept me very calm most of the time. And
you're in your element.
yes, and I noticed as I got older that I can use music whenever there's an anxious moment that I'm feeling tense about. Or if I'm upset about something, or someone's kind of ticked me off about whatever. Where's my, I just put some headphones on and just listen to music, and I'm fine.
I understand. So music is important to you, but why do you think music is important to everyone?
Well, for the same reasons, because in the world we live today, there's so much going on all the time. From being in high tech for years, working in finance, I noticed how things evolved in society. That we, at one point, were very simple in the technology we had. We had these huge phones that were wireless for the longest time. They became smaller, more compact. The computer chips that were being used in computers, now in phones and so forth, became smaller but more powerful.
Smart.
Exactly. So as things evolved, I also noticed that technology can be a friend or an element of pain in disguise, because we're getting too much information too fast and we're trying to absorb everything, and that then causes us to be more anxious, more nervous, and I think affects people in a bad way sometimes if you're not careful about how you utilize technology. Again, music, from my standpoint, offsets that. And I found with younger students that I either teach privately or work with through the Music Foundation, F2F, that they may come either to our music camp or when I go to them for music lessons, they don't seem like they're comfortable. But by the time I'm done either with the music lesson or through a session at camp, smiles are coming up and they're feeling more joyful, they're more relaxed. And I know the music is doing that.
Yeah, I also hear that like music is a universal language.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it transcends culture and boundaries. So yes, and you know, sometimes music can make me just dance or just let me mellow. So yeah, it really can impact.
Yeah, and we see that in every culture, every country, that there is some form of music somewhere in a country.
Yes. So Val, it seems like you were able to receive training as you were growing up. And was the training you received common to students at your time, your age, or were you given special access either through your parents or your mother's investment? What was your training like, and is it commonplace?
Yeah, it was a little of both, because at the time, the school district of Philadelphia was offering music lessons to any students that wanted to participate. Not everyone, of course, took advantage of that, but those that did were able to increase their skill through private lessons or from just working hard during the course of the school year. So.
Okay. So what do you see music education now compared to the time? Because sometimes I would see, you know, like the Grammys, they raise money for music education because that's oftentimes where budget cuts happen. Where do you see music education now in our school system?
Dependent upon the state, it has dwindled quite a bit. I just had a conversation with a band director where he mentioned to parents that there was a 50% cut
Wow, that's
on
significant.
the budget. So the students wouldn't be able to go to other marching band assignments for the school year, or wouldn't be able to do different programs that they would be able to do prior. And that disturbs me because it's so important, I think, for students who are moving forward in music and want to continue to not have the ability to perform more and to have an option to go further with their career. And these are students usually at the middle school level or high school, and then they need something to do. When they graduate from high school, they'd have to go work for McDonald's or somewhere that it's not conducive to what they were doing.
Yeah.
And it's very depressing, I'm sure, for a lot of young people who are facing this. So.
Sure. So F2F is your non-for-profit foundation. So tell us what F2F stands for.
Okay. First, I'm going to give credit to God because he's the one that woke me up at 3 o'clock in the morning with this name. I had been working with a good friend of mine. She's actually what I consider our emeritus board member. Her name is Nellie Doty, and she's a retired Houston ISD music therapist. I met her during a performance with a mental health organization here in Houston, and I was performing for their gala. And I heard her talking to people about music education, and that she was involved with an organization called the Texas Black Music Educators Association, which is a segment of the Texas Music Educators Association for the state. And it interested me because of education being important to me as well, especially from a music standpoint, and that she was involved. So I said, can I get your phone number so we can talk a little more about this? And it turned out that she had wanted to do something similar to what F2F is doing now with other people, but they didn't seem too interested in it. And since she was retired, she didn't really have the wherewithal to move forward with this on her own. So the good thing is, because she was also secretary for the Texas Black Music Educators Association, that she told me, she said, well, I have some templates for structure of a nonprofit organization similar to what we have if you'd like to do this. But she said, you're gonna have to make a decision. Either you're going to continue as a professional recording artist performing, or spend time to devote to this organization. It's going to take a lot of time from you.
That's a big fork in the road.
Yeah. So it took a few months for me to just weigh this both ways. And I came out to where I am now, that I can always do recording. That's easy to do. And there was actually an artist years ago that did somewhat similar. His name was Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye did not do a lot of live performances until later on in his career. Prior to that, he was doing a lot of records, a lot of very famous records with various artists from Motown. And I think at some point someone asked, well, how come you're not doing live performances? You should be out performing. He said, well, I'm really not interested in that. But then changed his mind later and said, okay, yeah, I'll go out and do something. So again, from a performance standpoint, that is something that I really love, and I may do that at some point and just say, okay, I'm going to do a tour. And I've just talked about this last week and thinking about it. But I want to make sure that F2F Music Foundation is formed, structured, operational, and able to continue without me being there day to day.
So form F2F, Faith to Form.
Right. That name came again at 3 o'clock in the morning when I needed a name for this new nonprofit. And the name Faith to Form came in my mind and just stuck there, just kept going over, Faith to Form. And I sat up on the side of the bed and said, okay, Lord, what are you telling me? What does this mean? First one was Faith to Form Young Leaders of Tomorrow. Faith to form confidence in younger people who want to have a music career, because I've always wanted to give back. So it tied into what I wanted to do. Faith to form academic structure for students to build their academic abilities. Faith to form confidence in students. And I just had answer after answer after answer, just continued. Okay, I guess that's what it's going to be. So
interesting. It's not only your faith to help form the students, but it's also for the students maybe to build their own faith to form themselves.
Exactly.
Wow, that's neat. It's always so neat to hear about how the names mean so much. What's in the name, right? That is so interesting.
You're right.
Yeah. So tell us how this, who exactly this Faith to Form, who are we forming?
Well, we've been focused on younger generation of music students.
Okay.
I have worked with some elementary school students, but I do that from a private lesson standpoint right now. Middle school is where we are targeting, as well as high school.
Yeah.
But there's an interesting gap between the two levels of students. Generally, middle school students are enthused about instruments and learning how to play because their minds are still open to exploration of a musical instrument and the sounds and how it feels and learning how to play. Where when they get into high school, now there's a different level of distraction that comes into play. And I found that most high school students are now planning for their career outside of school, and they're confused, not knowing what they want to do, and they really don't want to spend time with music because they're not sure if that's going to give them a lucrative career when they leave school.
Yes.
So I'd like to be able to work with both students, both levels, to be able to help those that are in high school find their way, so that they know that once they get them through freshman into junior and to senior level, that there is a career path that they can take in music. So it doesn't necessarily have to be as a performer. A lot of people think that if you're going to be in music, well, you're trying to be a superstar or whatever. And not necessarily, because not everybody can be a performer. It's the same thing with sports as well. I've had this discussion with many sports athletes and so forth that have foundations as well. And they've said that not every student is going to be an NBA player or an NFL player. Granted, we understand that. But the selection of people to be professional is so small that a lot of times students will get disenchanted about it because they know that it's probably not going to be them. So then they give up. And that's, I think, really sad, because it could be different.
They could have more potential that they realize.
Exactly.
So what type of programs does F2F offer to, rising music students?
Sure. Well, what I call our flagship program is called the Instrument Fund Program. So our goal is to raise money, and we would prefer to approach corporations, businesses, philanthropic organizations, to donate to our 501c3 nonprofit. And we call ourselves a public charitable nonprofit educational and performing arts organization, so that we cover the gamut of performing as well as education. And that by building this fund of money, that we're then able to buy at a discounted rate a brand new instrument for a student that is deserving of it, underserved, disadvantaged students that their families just cannot afford the investment of an instrument. That we'll provide that instrument for them, and then also mentor them through their continuing education with school.
It's hard to start something when you don't have the tools and the instrument to actually practice on.
Yeah, and there's a gap that we see too in schools, where students who do not have their own instrument and can't afford to get it, they may borrow an instrument from someone, and it's usually used not in the best condition, and they struggle with it. Or they're renting an instrument, and it's a struggle for the family to pay this rental fee all the time. I've even had one parent mention to me that she wasn't aware that there was going to be a credit check involved to rent an instrument.
Wow. Well, I guess they were small investments.
Yeah, and that was disturbing for this parent. So that's one area that prevents a student from being as good as their peer who may have their own instrument. The other point of this is if they're either borrowing or renting an instrument, during the summer months after summer break, they have to return the instruments back to school inventory usually. So during those months of summer, they go day to day with no practice at all. They have nothing to work with. Then when they come back to school, they have to prepare for competitions that's coming up. And now they get the instrument back, but they're behind in being able to play as well as a student that has had an instrument to play during the summer when they don't have school, don't have any, level of homework and so forth that interrupts the time that they would have to be able to practice. So of course they struggle through the year, and then most of the time they don't make competition because they just haven't had the skill level that they needed.
It's more of an environmental reasons as opposed to their own personal skills. If they were given equitable access to instruments as some of their peers, they could be as good, if not better.
Right.
So you're leveling the playing field a little bit for those students.
Yeah, from a musical standpoint and also academically, because then Music encourages a higher level of concentration and focus. So usually students who are playing an instrument constantly do better in math, they do better in history and science and all their curriculum in school. Because again, the concentration level is stronger. But if they have these gaps of time when they're not using an instrument, they're on video games or they're out playing, you know, activities and so forth, and that doesn't help when it comes from academic standpoint.
So I see you also offer music festivals and concerts.
Yes.
And is that for give them a chance to be on the stage and perform more of a real life what could be?
Yeah. And it's interesting that you mentioned that because that is now one of the programs that we're about to launch.
Oh.
We've been wanting to do this for the last 3 years, planning to launch this program. But because of COVID, we had to pull back knowing that students are not going to be able to be all together to perform. So what we've done in the meantime is kept the Instrument Fund program as, again, our flagship program where we do this 24/7 year round. But then we also offer clinics and workshops so that we can work within the schools to help band directors in cases where they may need some professional help to help the students in their confidence and ability to play. Also, the Music Summer Camp, which is a 2-week camp that we've been doing for the last couple of years in partnership with Houston Community College. And that also helps the students to have that summertime.
Yes, like a infusion of skills training.
Exactly, and confidence level. And we also incorporate STEM into that program. And then now with the music festivals and concerts, those students who have been awarded instruments, who have participated in the workshops and clinics or the music summer camp, now have the ability to perform on stage with recording artists, professional musicians and artists that come from all over the world, around the country, to support our organization and what we're doing to raise funds. That's essentially what this program will do. It'll be a fundraiser for F2F to continue our mission of helping students through our programs, but then also giving these students a confidence level to play before an audience, their families, their friends, strangers that they've never known, who can then appreciate their skill and give them that confidence they need to say, yes, I want to continue doing that, which is the same thing that I got.
Just like when you performed when you were 11 in front of a crowd, and you're like, I like this.
Right.
And if you didn't have that opportunity, you may not have known.
That's right.
That was something that really you were passionate about.
Right.
What a full circle. You start with an instrument, the tools that they can use, and then you train them on how to use it and be good at it, and then they can perform.
Right.
And with professionals alongside of professionals. That's that is a full circle.
Yes.
Wow, that's interesting. That's a lot of programming with F2F, and you certainly can't do this alone. Who helps you?
Well, we have a board, and excuse me, most of the board members are, actually everyone that works with me are volunteers. We have no employees, but the board members consist of professional recording artists as myself. Her name is Paula Atherton, and she's very well known throughout the world, basically traveling, constantly performing and recording. Nellie Doty, I mentioned earlier, she's retired, but she assists with advice pretty much. She's not really too active with what we do, but she does participate with our summer camp. She loves that. And then we have our vice president, Mr. Ray Schillens, and he assists with connections pretty much to help, and especially even now with the music festivals and concerts program, to help us get this off the ground and move forward. Then we have Mrs. Lewis, my wife, who is our treasurer and secretary.
Ah, very important job.
Yeah. And since she's here with me most of the time, we do a lot of the planning and organizing and contacting emails, and she's also great with graphics design. So when we have to do flyers and things like that, she loves doing that. So it's been very helpful.
Do you have a particular memorable student that have thrived under the program and that you would like to share with us?
There's a few actually,
Mhm.
and some of this information is on our website.
Okay.
There's one student that I teach privately.
Mhm.
I think he's 11 or 12 years old.
Mhm.
And he said he wanted to do a podcast, so his parents bought him a set of headphones, and he's got a camera on his computer and his
Yes.
microphone, and we did it, I think, on Skype
Yes.
one day where he recorded from his bedroom, and I
Mhm.
was here in the house, and recorded a podcast. So his audio
Yes.
podcast is on our website. And then the other student is Ian Cannon.
Mhm.
And I've been working with him since he was a junior at Dulles High School. Not too regularly, but enough where I could support him as he needed some advice or direction on what to do as he graduated. He graduated this year from Dulles, has been in competition with UIL program.
Wow.
He's a percussionist, but a very awesome pianist.
Mm.
He's very polished in terms of classical music. I mentioned to him at one point um, what his desire was after he graduated high school, and he said he wanted to go to a music conservatory. So I made some connections with friends of mine who are Italian concert pianists. One in
Mm.
particular was Francesco Attesti,
Mm.
and Francesco has enabled him to come visit Italy with his parents
Mhm.
and visit with 4 different professors who were considered maestros
Mhm.
and audition with them at their homes.
Wow.
He did that right after Thanksgiving, and he is now about to start at the Conservatory of Music in Perugia, Italy. I think he goes actually back into to start school next week.
Wow.
But
Wow.
he's a very accomplished pianist.
What an opportunity and what a connection. Wow,
Yeah.
that's got to feel really good.
It has. I've come to tears at times just thinking about how
Mm.
I've been able to assist a
Mhm.
young student to further his career,
Yes.
hers as well, because I have a couple students that I teach privately that
Yes.
are girls, and they are
Mhm.
learning so well that I can
Mhm.
see
Mm.
that they're going to do well. And I give them opportunities as well when people may contact me for performances. Uh, I think it was a couple years ago. The Harvard Business Club of Houston
Mm. Mhm.
contacted me about doing their gala.
Mhm.
And along with my band performing, they
Mhm.
asked if I had any students that I work with that could play for the cocktail hour prior to the
Mhm.
gala. And it just so happens I do. So I selected a few students to come to the hotel,
Give him opportunity.
right? And we had a grand piano there set up for them, and parents came with them, of course, and they
Mhm.
had their suits and their
Mm.
fancy dresses on. And I told them, bring the music book so you can,
Yes.
play a few songs for the people, and everyone loved it. They said, "Wow,
Yes.
these students, whose students are these? Oh, they're
Mhm.
Val Lewis's kids," and
Mm.
that made me feel really good too.
That's awesome. So, our viewers or our listening audience, how can they help? How can they help, say, F2F or organizations like F2F? Because our listeners can come from any
Sure.
part of the country.
Well, by being a 501c3
Mhm.
nonprofit organization, we have to operate based on donations.
Mhm.
At times, I will donate, of course, back to my own organization, but I reach out to people to let them know that
Mhm.
we need donations to operate.
Mhm.
This is one of the reasons why we don't have employees.
Mhm.
So, what I've really been wanting to do is more fundraising
Mhm.
activities with our music festival that we're planning. We've been doing this for, as I mentioned, for the last
Yes.
3 years,
Yes.
but could not because of COVID. But
Mhm.
now that we're moving forward, we have it
Mhm.
scheduled for February 21st,
Mhm.
24th. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
February 24th
Mm.
at Smart Financial Center.
Oh, okay.
And so far, we have the Sartartia Middle School Honors Orchestra, who has agreed to perform. They will open the festival. Dionne Warwick has committed to coming in town to perform with her trio. And I have various smooth jazz artists that are coming in from California. And that's Michael Paulo, Greg Karukas, and Paul Brown. They're coming in from California. And Paula Atherton is coming in from New York to perform. And we have a Zydeco musician. His name is Ruben Moreno. He's also going to perform on the show. And
neat.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to having.
And then your students can perform, right?
Exactly. Well, the orchestra will perform.
Orchestra. Oh, yes, the Sartarsh.
Right.
So we can help by either donating directly to the organization or buy the tickets to see the festival, so we can support through the ticket sales too.
Yes, and if there's any businesses, corporations that are interested in participating in the form of sponsors,
that will help too.
That's an immediate need because there's so much expense involved with being able to do a concert like this. It would be advantageous to businesses to be able to advertise their brand
and support
at a festival like this, where it's a 5-hour festival. It's going to run from 4 p.m. until 9 p.m. And they'll have their banners there. We'll have opportunities for booths to be set up in the lobby. And again, it's just, I think, a very lucrative opportunity for a business to be able to launch or advertise their brand name there. So we're reaching out to local businesses as well as nationally based businesses to participate as sponsors. And they can do either or. They can either pay according to the sponsorship levels that we have, or just make a donation to F2F to support the program.
Sure. So Val, we're coming to an end of our conversation, and I always like to give you an opportunity to share with the audience, if they didn't hear anything else, was that one thing you really want them to have grab of this during this podcast?
Well, first of all, to look us up. We have a website, and it is www.f2fmusicfoundation.org. And on our website, we have a lot of the stories that we covered during the podcast. There's pictures, there's videos, there's a Meet the Team tab, so they can learn more about me and all of the board members and what our backgrounds are and what our mission is, what our mission statement is. All that's on the website. And we also have a merchandise tab, so people who may be interested in buying coffee cups. There's a mug. We have T-shirts, we have pillows, we have coasters, all types of things. And a portion of those proceeds that are used to buy this merchandise comes back to F2F to help us with our programs and our mission.
Okay, you definitely could use their support. Well, Val, we thank you so much for spending so much time and allowing us to be in your beautiful home.
Thank you.
And we just hope that the festival goes really well and more students get connected to not only training and maybe opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah, keep in mind also, this festival is a program, so it's going to be annual every year.
Okay, so something to look forward to for our calendar for repeats.
Right, exactly.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hope you like this episode. I don't know if you realize behind each episode, there's a lot of things happening. The pre-production planning, the post-production editing, and the interview itself. It will really encourage us if you like the video and hit the subscribe. Thank you.